Welcome back to Breakfast Television. We're here with Saleema Noon, sexual health educator. If you have teens, you'll want to watch this right now. We're talking about the increase or the perception of increase in teen prostitution. And Saleema, I think important to note that a lot of people don't even really consider what's happening with our teens' prostitution, but you know, they're exchanging sex for things and...
Yeah, and what we're seeing is that girls are saying to themselves and justifying their behavior by saying, well, this is my decision. I'm doing this because it can get me something. I'm perfectly in control. I feel powerful because I'm giving someone pleasure, and this is my choice. But really what that is kind of girl power gone wrong.
Right.
We need to be empowering young girls to make decisions that respect their body, not exploit it.
Does it come from I guess, this really laid-back attitude that, I mean, when I was young, I have to say sex was like a really big deal, and I was brought up to think it was a really big deal. Are we too laid back nowadays?
Well, the problem is, Dawn, teens and preteens are just bombarded with sex in everything they see around them. The media, billboards, you know, the conversations that they overhear older brothers and sisters having and adults having, it is everywhere. And so, yes, they do have a more relaxed attitude toward it. What I think is really important for educators to do as well as parents is from a young age, like, you know, grade 6 and 7, start talking about sex as a range of activities. Sex is not just penis goes in vagina. Sex may involve someone's mouth on someone's genitals, for example. And then we need to teach our kids about the different responsibilities that come with these different types of sex so they can understand that, yes, oral sex is sex and it is a very big deal. Maybe you can't get pregnant, but you're putting yourself at risk for sexually transmitted infections. And there are a whole host of emotional responsibilities and consequences that come with that.
Well, and like you said, this conversation could start with saying, hey, I read this article in the Globe and Mail. By the way, again, that's on our website, breakfasttelevision.ca, and then bringing it up with your kids. Now, this article also refers to the fact that perhaps our sexual education system is failing. So you're a sex educator. What do you have to say about that?
I would disagree with that. I think we're doing a great job. We're seeing lots of very encouraging and positive findings in our research in terms of teen sexual behavior. The rates of vaginal intercourse among teens in BC has been steadily decreasing. Teen pregnancy is steadily decreasing. Teens are waiting longer to have vaginal intercourse. Don't get me wrong, we've still got a lot of work to do, but what we're doing needs to be, we need more of it, and we need to make sure that all kids get this information. And I think what is really key is to start early. You know, unfortunately, if you're just starting to teach your kids about this stuff when they're 12 and 13, it's too late. We need to start in kindergarten and start teaching things like self-esteem and self-worth so that as kids get older, they have the confidence to make decisions that work for them when it comes to their body, not ones that work for someone else.
Okay, so let's talk about the difference then. You know, obviously as a sex educator, you have to teach a lot of kids that maybe are hearing some of this stuff for the first time, but obviously it starts at home first. Hopefully is what we're hoping it does.
Ideally it does.
Now, how does it differ with what you teach girls and what you teach boys?
Well, I think that what parents teach boys and girls is very similar in a lot of different ways, but specifically for girls, I think it's really important from a young age that girls understand their value is not in how they look or what they can do or how they can make another person feel. Their value is in who they are as a person, and they need to make decisions about their body that reflects that. So they need to have confidence to really make decisions that are congruent with their personal values and beliefs and their personal boundaries. And they need to have the strength and the courage to say, you know what, if that doesn't work for you, that's your problem. And if you're only going to notice me because I can perform a sexual act on you, that's not what I'm looking for. So from a very young age, I think it's really important for girls to understand that. I think another key concept for girls to understand is that pleasure should be a two-way street. And we know from research that girls are usually the givers of oral sex and guys are the receivers. And so if someone isn't willing to do that to you, why would you do that to them?
And so for a boy, then, are we teaching them to be okay with all that, then?
Well, we need to teach boys to resist the pressure, to succumb to that idea of being sexually experienced in order to be considered a pimp or a player or a stud or a stallion in front of their friends. And we also need to be teaching respect for women. You know, again, why would you expect someone to do something to you that you wouldn't be willing to do to them?
Lots of great information, Saleema. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. I mean, this is a topic that is so important. I know we could, and it's such an and you do. This is what you do for a living. So, by the way, on our website, breakfasttelevision.ca, we've got a number of links under the Today's Show section. So we've got the Globe and Mail article. There's also a bit of that documentary, which is it's Oral Sex, the New Goodnight Kiss, as well as your website. So lots of great information. Start the discussion with your kids. It's such an important topic. Thank you so much,
No problem,
Saleema.
Dawn. Thanks for having me.